So let's quickly recap the doxastic assent argument, the first response Sosa makes to that argument, and then we'll go through, cover the second response, and that will be the end of that section. We can move on to the next. So recall the doxastic assent argument begins with this intellectualist dilemma. Either the mental states serve as terminal nodes for epistemic regresses and their propositional attitudes, or they serve as terminal nodes for epistemic regresses and they're not propositional attitudes. First side doesn't work. Second side doesn't work. Looks like you foundationalists are just out of luck. That was the argument. Sosa's response then was to say, hey, wait a minute. I don't think that this horn here with the non-propositional mental states, that horn actually goes through. I think that's false, that first premise. He gave his reason. I think that consequentialist ethics tells us how we have a pattern for understanding extra-attitudinal justification or extra-attitudinal evaluative ascriptions, and that, he thinks, provides a wedge against the coherentist. He's got a second objection, and the second objection has to do with the internal coherence of the intellectualist model as a whole. So the picture of justification which underlies this argument, it either is going to undermine the coherentist view, any view of justification really, that requires a finite regressive justification, or it's going to introduce a qualification that renders it so trivial that it's, in his terms, boring. So let's see how that's supposed to work. Remember that according to the intellectualist model, justification transference via inference is parasitic on the logical relationships between the beliefs that serve as premises and the beliefs that serve as conclusion. Unfortunately, Sosa says, being a member of a coherent set of beliefs isn't a logical relationship between propositions. There's nothing about coherence that gets into that intellectualist model to be used to justify anything. Let's look at some examples. Homer makes an inference. Justified belief, I'm Homer. Justified belief, if someone is Homer, they are fat. Conclusion, after inference, I'm fat. On the intellectualist model, we have inferential transfer of justification. The content of Homer's belief that he's Homer, together with the content of Homer's conditional belief that Homer is fat, results in Homer's belief that he's fat getting justified from the two premises through the inference. So far, so great. Let's look at a coherent set of beliefs. Today is sunny. I like sunny days. There are many sunny days in Southern California. Let's assume that meets the minimum standard of coherence. Again, coherents don't really articulate what exactly counts as a coherent set of beliefs. Whatever they specify, it's a pretty good bet I'm a coherent set of beliefs isn't one of them. So, part of that set of coherent beliefs, I like sunny days. That particular belief, it's not made more or less likely to be true by being part of that set. And that's why Bonjour introduces or insists upon some of the beliefs being beliefs that are generated through perception, trying to tie the coherent set to the world. That, he thinks, helps make the coherent set more likely to be true because it interacts with the world. It can be shown to be incorrect or rendered incoherent through its interaction via perception. Great. However, how do you get that information in there? How is it that coherence is playing a role in any of that? Now we've got perception, now we've got beliefs. Perceptual beliefs come in, they may render some parts of this system false, incoherent, something like that. Belief may get rejected, it might get added, but nothing about that includes the coherence part. And if we try and get coherence in there somehow through the intellectualist model, so we get beliefs about coherence, and this seems like what Bonjour is suggesting in his third step. If we introduce those beliefs, that doesn't help, because now those beliefs have to be justified. And how would we justify those beliefs? Same four-step story all over again. Then we have to get this new belief about the coherence of the superset that includes the belief that I'm coherent and so on. Doesn't look like it helps to end the infinite regress that gets triggered precisely because only beliefs can transfer justification through inference. Only inferential transfer is allowed. Hence, you're stuck in this closed belief system. It doesn't look like you ever get out of that system. if propositional attitudes could only justify other propositional attitudes, and they must in turn be justified by additional propositional attitudes, then there is no finite justificational regresses ending in a belief having some non-epistemic properties in virtue of which all the beliefs in that chain are justified. So what Sosa is suggesting here is, if you're insisting that the only way to justify beliefs is through inference from other beliefs, only mechanism for that is this parasitic transfer of justification. The problem that we observed earlier on, how do we inject justification into the system? That seems to be paramount. Monsieur tries to do that by suggesting that we have these perceptual belief mechanisms. Those are inferential as well. How does he get around that? I don't know. Introspection beliefs don't really need to be justified that way. Violates the rule. Well, I have a tacit awareness of the availability of the inference. Also seems to violate the rule. Doesn't look like he's got a good answer for that. I think Sosa's right about this part. Next time, we'll turn our attention to the foundationalist. Look at the epistemic regress argument, Sosa's criticisms of the epistemic regress argument, then we'll turn to Sosa's positive theory.